hello, Sasha, hello, hello to everyone. Thank you to join us tonight, today, this morning. Meanwhile, we are waiting for a couple of minutes. I would like to repeat for everyone that, as always, we have today a book giveaway. So everyone who is registered in Zoom and LinkedIn will have a chance to win the amazing book from our sponsor Pact. And the book is Python Data Cleaning Cookbook. So not only the knowledge and experience and amazing lecture that you will receive from Susan, but also book you will receive tonight, today or morning. So please join us. We are going to start in 1-2 minutes. Here with us also Andrew. Andrew is a partner director here in Newton. I think, Andrew, you can start to introduce a little bit yourself and Susan, because we are like 1 minute to start.
Yeah, sure. Thank you so much, Yulia. Definitely appreciate you organizing this for us. Hey, Susan, welcome to our AI Talent Lab. We're super stoked to have you today.
I'm so excited to be here as well.
Awesome. So, yeah, I mean, we've received, a lot of really cool and positive responses from all of the attendees, and it's super inspiring. We're just really looking at all of the different ways we can, make artificial intelligence and machine learning more popular, more accessible to everyone, really kind of the mission of democratizing artificial intelligence. And so with these AI Talent Labs, we're bringing in guest speakers from all kinds of different companies, and we come here every week or two to talk about machine learning, AI, different career tips for data analysts, data scientists, students, whoever it may be who's interested in the topics. And really, we like to encourage our audience to, note down any questions you might have or any comments, and we'll definitely address those at the end. And, our guests are different industry leaders, experts, researchers, whoever it may be in a particular field or topic or subject. We like to bring them in and just open up to have a conversation to really just bring this information out to as many people. So, feel free to follow us on LinkedIn. You'll be able to get different notifications of when our streams go live. And then, of course, please also follow Susan as well. She's always coming out with great new content. And that way you can see, all of the next amazing events that we have. So please stay tuned. And not to drag on too long, but today we're going to talk about the dangers of dirty data with Susan Walsh. And with over a decade of experience fixing your dirty data, Susan is one to throw sunshine on the issue. And as a founder and managing director of the Classification Guru, she knows everything about data classification, taxonomy customization, data cleansing, and consultancy. And so that is such an important part of being able to leverage your data, is making sure you have good data. And so during this webinar, Susan will share real life examples of dirty data and the consequences it has on its output, such as decision-making, reporting, analytics, AI, and machine learning. So you'll learn how to make quick, accurate checks and changes to your own data in Excel, which will be super helpful when you leverage Newton. And regardless of your experience, you can explain why data accuracy and maintenance are so important and be able to implement the best practices. So with that, Susan, I'm going to pass it off to you. Thank you so much for joining.
No, thank you so much for having me. And I think it's a really important topic to cover, because Newton is a great tool, but it's only as good as the data that's behind it. And, I really do feel like it's an underrepresented and under discussed area. So I'm trying to make it a bit more exciting, a bit more fun, and, just bring a bit of joy to it and share my passion and see if it spreads.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So hopefully you can see my screen now. It says you can. So I'm going to keep going. So today is the dangers of dirty data. It's going to be a whistle-stop tour of not just you know, what it is and how to fix it, but what are the consequences as well? Because I think that's often forgotten as well. So
Yeah, I think we don't have the sound.
oh no.
We can restart it.
I know. Let me stop sharing because I think there's an option for me to tick the share sound and I forgot to do that. So let's try again. Let's go back. That would be easier. There we go. Right. Let me know if you can hear this.
When you think of superheroes, what's the first thing that comes to mind?
Yes.
Men in tights? Women with superhuman strength? Capes? Lots of superheroes wear capes, but only one wears a coat. A data coat. By day, she's Susan Walsh, but when dirty data rears its ugly head, she becomes the classification guru. What are the classification guru's superpowers? Consistency, organization, accuracy, and trust. With help from her good friend and trusty sidekick, the Data Whisperer.
Hi, Scott.
The classification guru wages war against dirty data, fighting her sworn enemies, misclassification, duplicate, and the typonator. It's the classification guru's job to clean up the mean streets of Excel City.
That was bang out of order.
So, when you're in Excel hell, don't let dirty data get you down. Call the classification guru.
Wow, it's amazing. I love it. Susan,
That was awesome.
you made,
Yeah.
made it fun.
Yeah, that is a little teaser of what this whole session is about, because, you know, we are data professionals. We might love data, but there's also people who work with data who are not data professionals, and they are the people that cause the most problems. So we need to get everybody on board with the data. So I'm going to cover off quite a few things in this session this morning. I'm going to tell you a little bit about myself, where I came from, talk about what is dirty data, because we're all working with different data sets, so it's different things to different people. Then we're going to talk about the importance of data quality, the consequences of that dirty data when it's not right. And then I'm going to show you some tips on how you can ensure that data accuracy. There's actual images. We can share the slides afterwards. And then I'm also going to do a live run through in Excel as well, doing the spot checks. And then we're going to summarize at the end. And if you're really lucky, there might be another video at the end. So first of all, who am I? Where did I come from? Because a couple of years ago, you would never have even heard of me. I didn't really exist. I am not from a data background. I fell into it by accident. I worked in sales. I had a shop, a clothes shop. And then when that didn't work out, I desperately needed a job. And so I found an ad online and started working for a spend analytics company, classifying data. Purely by accident, thought it was going to be just to pass the next few months before I got something else. But as it turned out, I really loved it and really enjoyed the job. And so I stayed with it. And that's where I genuinely found my love for data. And then after 5 years working there, I could see a real opportunity to offer a cleaning, cleansing, classification service without the analytics and the sexy dashboards, just the basic stuff. But, you know, the problem was nobody else was out there talking about it. Nobody was looking for me because they didn't know I existed. And so, you know, I have been kind of trying to catch the attention of, well, initially it was just the procurement world, but the data world have embraced me with open arms as well. You know, you can see 3D Susan here. You know, I try to do really great animations explaining data. And then more recently, I have also written a book. And again, it's all fun. So it's between the spreadsheets, classifying and fixing dirty data. All my trade secrets pretty much are in here. You know, I'm happy to share that knowledge. As I say in the book, I want you to put me out of a job. I want people to work with clean data. I don't think I'm going to be out of a job anytime soon, but you know, my aim is to get everybody just doing a little bit more to help with the clean data. So dirty data, what is it? Where can we find it? what are we looking for? And it might be things that you might not have even thought of. Now, first of all, there's things like misspelt words. So you can have incorrect product descriptions, incorrect item descriptions, incorrect product names, and they can cause a lot of problems, including multiple versions of the same thing. You can even have incorrect descriptions, which can cause miscategorization and all sorts of problems. And of course, there's things like missing product codes as well. So if you've set up a product, but you've not put the code in, that is going to cause a lot of issues in terms of manufacturing, planning, selling, distribution, all kinds of things. And then there's my favorite, there's data that's in the wrong columns. And I see this a lot in particularly addresses. So you either get the whole address in one cell, or you find the zip code in the city column or the state column in the city column, and it's all over the place. So I do a lot of cleaning for that, and I'm sure you're nodding at your head and going, yeah, we do that too. And then there are no standard units of measure. So we are increasingly a global community where we spell things differently and maybe measure things differently. So how are you spelling liters, kilometers? Are we talking miles or inches? Everybody's using something different. And sometimes even within one country, people are using different things. Which leads me on to the currency issues, which again can cause real problems with numbers if you haven't done the currency exchange properly. I've seen data where I've had quite a few £500 taxis in Sweden. Now I know Sweden's quite expensive, but it's not that expensive. So when we did a bit of digging, we realized we hadn't done the currency conversion properly. And then formatting issues. So I'm on a single screen today. I can't see the comments, but what I would really love for you to do right now, whatever platform you're on, is write how you format your date in the chat box. So whether it's day, month, year, or month, day, year, or day, month, year, spelled out. Do you use dashes? Do you use slashes? Do you use dots? I bet there's 100 different ways that dates are being shown in the chat right now because everybody's using something different. And that in itself causes problems when you try to match up invoices or documents, etc. And all of those things will ultimately lead to our good old friends, the duplicates. I don't think I've seen a data set that doesn't have duplicates in there. They are a huge problem, but we can help to try and minimize it by, becoming more standard with all these other things. And I work in the spend data classification world with procurement data. So I wanted to show with you some examples of data from my world that actually might get you thinking about data in a different way. So first of all, this is LinkedIn. So we all know LinkedIn, we're on it now, we're live. It's a networking, recruiting, training platform. What it is not is a restaurant, but somebody classified it as that because they looked at the description. And what I really want to highlight here is the importance of looking at your data as a whole, in context. So not just one cell, not just one row, but all the columns, all the rows, to get a picture of what the, in this case, it's a supplier, but it could be products, it could be something else. It will give you so much more context and it will help you pick out anything that's wrong. Now, I think the person was just kind of lazy when they did this and just looked at the description, and that's why they've classified it incorrectly. But stuff like this happens in my world all the time. And the next example that I want to share with you is about assumptions. And actually, I've posted about that. I'm doing the data advent, so 24 days of data Christmas tips that I'm giving you. And today we're talking about assumptions. Before I talk that, there's thermal installations. That's when people just don't read the information. They're not thermal insulation, it's installation. So again, you have to be really careful and not just skim over things. Then SurveyMonkey, again, known as a market research company, I had somebody classify this as consulting. So you have to just double check because a lot of the data I work with, and if you're working with your data all the time, you should kind of know it. You should know or be familiar when things are right or not. And then my favorite is Tinder Corporation, because we all think of Tinder, the online dating app, but actually this came in and the client, well, the description first of all says data cabling. So I thought that's not right. And then I also thought, in context, the client I was working for would not be using Tinder in any way, shape or form. So when I did a bit of digging, I discovered that there's a Tinder Corporation Limited in the UK that is an IT services company. So you should never just assume that you think you know something is right. Again, use the data, use the context to help you make that decision and make sure it's as right as it can be. And of course, you know, it's easy for me to show you a couple of lines and go, oh, look, these are wrong. You know, the reality is we are dealing with hundreds, if not hundreds of thousands of rows of data. It's really hard to spot these things unless you know how to look for it, which I'm going to talk about later on. So when we're classifying or working with data, how can we kind of manage this? So we need to remember that, you know, look at context. So look at the vendor and the description when classifying, or if it's a product, look at the product and the dimensions, the product and the price. You know, there's lots of different things that can guide you. And again, don't assume that you just know what something is. Double check. Look at those values to guide classification, or if you're buying items, you know, and every past purchase history you've paid $5 for something and suddenly the next one's $20. Is that somebody, or $50? Has somebody put an extra zero in? Does that look right? You know, start to think about it like that. Again, looking at the whole picture. And if you do have to Google it, you know, does the website you find match what's in your data? Because, you know, I find, you know, working globally that there can be the same company name operating in different countries as different things. So you have to just be aware of that. And, you know, anything new, Google it. You know, that is my best tool. And I've seen people put Googling as a skill now, and I'm with them on that. It's a proper skill. So it's not just classification. I normalize a lot of suppliers. So in this instance, there's Grainger, WW Grainger, Grainger Inc., which is the same company, but there's also Grainger PLC, which is in the UK. I initially made the mistake of normalizing them all to Grainger in the early days, but actually Grainger PLC in the UK is a house builder. Grainger in the US is industrial products, lots of nuts, bolts and screws. And what would happen is when I normalized that product, I would then classify Grainger as everything under hardware. But the reality is some of that is actually like house rent or something else. So it's been misclassified. So again, it's those assumptions. Don't just think you know something, double check, look at the descriptions, look at the GL codes, look at whatever you have to help guide you with that. So remember, don't assume. And, you know, there are suffixes at the end of company names that help tell you where they're from. So PLC Limited tends to be the UK, SPZOO tends to be Poland, SA's kind of Spain, the PTY is kind of Australia, Asia. So there are, you know, it will help guide you and help you find that information. And think about where the supplier is located. You know, is it the same supplier that you think it is, or is it a different supplier but with the same name? And so that's all the dirty data, but why is it important? Why should we even bother with it? Well, first of all, if you have clean data, you are going to save yourself so much time fixing the dirty data. I mean, I dread to think how many hours a week are spent just fixing things that are wrong. And it can be costly to rectify because you might have to get someone else in to do it. You know, it might be so bad that you have to start again from scratch. It's going to affect your decision-making processes. So your budgets for the year, staff bonuses, headcounts, redundancies, the direction of the business. decisions are made on that data, if it's wrong, the wrong decisions could be made. And the whole company could be impacted on that. You know, it doesn't touch, it's not exclusive to one area. The whole business will be affected by it. And let's face it, dirty data makes your life more difficult. And who wants that? We want to make it as easy as possible. But it's not just all negative, negative, negative. You know, if we have clean data, we could increase the profitability for our company. Now, you know, you might think, well, that's for the company, why should I bother? Because that will affect things like your bonuses, promotion, pay rise, all those kinds of things. If you can increase the profitability of your team by saving time on projects, you know, that's going to look and work very well in your favor. So what about the consequences when it goes a bit wrong? And I'm sure you have all got stories. I have a whole chapter in my book dedicated to data horror stories that were anonymously donated to me by my connections on LinkedIn. So it can go really wrong. It can start with reporting and decision making. So if in the procurement world, that can affect cost savings. You might not be able to make as many cost savings as you thought you could, or you could make more, but you don't have the data to back it up. Then you've got supplier negotiations. You know, you go into a meeting with data and your supplier has data, and more times than not, those numbers don't match. You want to go in with the best, most accurate data that you have so you can negotiate the best decisions. Things like supplier rationalization. So like I showed you with the normalization, you can actually, you might think you've got, you know, an example with a client was they had 43,000 suppliers, but when I normalized that down, it came down to 34,000. So there were lots of versions of the same thing. So when you're trying to report on how much you have bought or sold to a client, if you've got multiple versions of it that haven't been normalized properly, you're not getting the proper picture there. And it's going to affect things like forecasting too. You might not forecast enough raw materials, like for planning and manufacturing or distribution, and that could put you out of stock of a best-selling product or something like that. It could cause a lot of problems. And then budgets as well. You know, are you getting the most of the budgets this year? Maybe not, because your data's not right. And then when it comes to things like CRM systems, you know, if you've got multiple versions of the same person in there, or the wrong name attached to the address, you could be mailing out to all these people who don't exist or don't live at that address. You know, you want to make sure you're targeting the right people. So this is an example of where cleaning your data, normalizing it in an analytics context is really powerful. This is an example of what I would see in a normal data file. Normally, there would be many more rows, but there's various versions of the same companies here. When this is normalized, if you look at what you see as the main PricewaterhouseCoopers here, we're looking at about 75,000. But when we normalize that, actually we find we've only got 4 suppliers, and that spend with PwC isn't 75,000 at all, it's 190,000. That's a huge difference. I mean, that's the power of normalization, and it might not be suppliers that you do, it could be products or groups, categories, it could be anything. And that's the difference that it really highlights of what you could be putting back to your business when you get asked for information, etc. And then there's technology implementation. You know, data cleansing is, I say often here, it's always neglected. Nobody ever pays enough attention to it. The errors generally are only found post-implementation. You find that the staff lose faith in the data, they become disengaged, they claim it doesn't work, they don't trust it because it's wrong, and they end up going back to their siloed spreadsheets after you've spent millions on your nice new technology. And then it costs a lot of money to fix. You've got to hope that your staff will then reuse that technology. or the project becomes abandoned, you know, and I have genuinely heard of millions of pounds, dollars of software or projects being completely thrown out because they didn't get the data right at the start. And then we come to AI, machine learning and automation. Now, Newton have a great tool, but it really is only as powerful as the data you put in it. It can do amazing things, but if your data's wrong, it's gonna learn wrong things for you. So again, you've got to cleanse and prepare that data beforehand, make sure it's clean, so that when machine learning does learn from those training data sets, it's learning the right thing. Same with machine learning. It might be codes or instructive learning, but if you give someone the wrong data set, the wrong coding is going to happen. And it really is true what they say, the old adage about rubbish in or garbage in and rubbish out or garbage out. So is there a way to ensure that data accuracy? Can we actually fix this problem? Well, I wouldn't say 100%. And I think we have to really be honest here and understand that there is no quick fix. There's no magic button. There is no software in the world that is going to magically clean your data. You will have to put in a bit of effort. People will need to be involved, and some of it will need to be done by eye. However, it's that bit of time and investment up front will then save you so much more time in the long run. And we need to get the whole organization involved. You know, we as data people love it, but like I said, it's the non-data people that are causing the problems. So sales and marketing people, when they're putting their information into the CRM systems, are they doing it properly? People who put products into the SAP system, are they doing that properly? Even the receptionist, we need to get everybody on board with it and understand the consequences of what happens further down the line if we don't get it right at the start, you know, because it could be our friends, our co-workers that spend hours doing things that we could have done in 5 minutes. And, you know, again, let's agree those common standard process in terms either within your department or within the company, and use those and make sure everybody's on the same page, because many times I've heard customers and suppliers mean different things to different parts of the business. So, you know, let's make sure we're all talking about the same thing. And then, you know, my not so secret sauce is maintenance. Like, you can fix data, you can have it perfect, but it's not going to stay like that. You need to maintain it, and also you need to spot check it. People do accidental deletions, cut and paste errors. They have their own opinion about what something should be. You know, you need to go in and check all that. But how can we get people on board with this? It can be really tricky. So I like to say, and you saw them in my superpowers earlier, make sure your data has its coat on. And what that means is that your data needs to be consistent. So it needs to be same standards, terms, processes, everyone's talking the same language, and measurements. And then it needs to be organized. So think of your closet. You know, if you've ever thrown a top in there and then you go to get it the next time and you can't find it, and then when you do, it's a bit creased. If you just hung it up properly in order, either by color or by clothing type, you would have been able to go in, take it out and move away without having to iron it and spend time doing that. Well, data is exactly the same as that. Think about organizing it by countries, by regions, by departments, by teams, anything you want. If you have it categorized, you can suddenly quickly pull those reports. You know, how many times have you heard people spending hours trying to get reports together because the data is just not quite right? If you can group it and categorize it, it's going to be really easy to pull out. And then, of course, it has to be accurate. So decide what that means within your area of the business. You know, in finance, that it's numbers. It has to be 100% accurate. In collecting information sense, it might be we need certain fields that we must have data for, and the rest are optional. So work with your team, get everybody involved and decide those things. And then when you have those three things, you have trustworthy data. So you can make better business decisions. You can be confident to go to your manager or the board and say, this is what we're doing. This is what's happening. Give me a promotion because I'm so great. So this is our whistle stop tour. Over the next 10 minutes, I am going to show you how to spot check your data. So the first thing that I'm going to show you is that, and tell you that it's not by any means the easiest option. Everybody's using different tools, but we all have Excel in common. So you can take this and apply it to whichever tools you're using. So the first thing I've done here is I've taken the normalized name and the categorizations. And then I've changed it to a tabular form in the pivot table. And then what that means is I can see the suppliers and I can see the classifications and I can start to scroll for anything that doesn't look right. But then I also need to flip between the two different tabs, which can be really time consuming, and I'm all about efficiency. So the next thing I'm going to do is click on New Window and Arrange All. And I'm going to sort that vertically, but it depends on the type of data you're working with. You might want it horizontally. So what that means is you get your two tabs side by side. You can have one that's your pivot table, and then you can also have one that is your raw data table. And then you can start to go through and correct the raw data and then refresh all on the pivot tab to update the corrected data. And that just makes sure that you're not going over the same thing that you've already corrected. And if you want to be extra thorough, you can add in other things like descriptions, or you can even do it by category. If we are working in Excel, we all know that it doesn't handle large amounts of data very well. So you might need to split it by a category, a region, or even a supplier into smaller chunks and then put it back into the data. But you still get the same effect. So right now I'm going to open my Excel file. I'm going to make this a little bit bigger just so hopefully you can see that. I'm just going to take a sip of water because I've been talking a lot. So here I have, I've normalized my supplier name. We've got a description and then we've also got some classification. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create a pivot table here. Let's make this one bigger too. So the first thing that I would do in this instance was I would purely check the normalized suppliers to make sure that they're unique. So what this does when you set up a pivot table is it aggregates however many versions of that supplier name or product, or it could be codes, whatever it is you're using, it shows you one listing of it. So there could be 5 ABC cars, but it'll show me one here. And the reason that that's helpful is I can now scroll down, and as you can see, I haven't normalized these properly because I've got 2 versions of Lyrico here and a couple of versions of Neopost and some of Novotel. In fact, I haven't normalized this very well at all. So what I'm going to do is, I don't know, I'll hide this little bar. I'm going to put that down here. I'm going to go to that view. I'm going to do the new window. I'm going to go back to view and I'm going to arrange all, and I'm going to arrange them vertically. So now, as you can see, it's popped up with both of the pivot and the pivot again. So what I need to do is change one of these to the supplier raw data. And then I'm going to go and I'm going to look for Lyrico. And again, you know, this is a small data set, so I can just scroll down and find it. You might need to do a search to find what you're looking for. And, you know, you can control and paste, or be careful if you've got filters on, because that might not work. If you want to be really safe, I would use the little square in the corner here, and then it becomes a little plus sign. And I'm just going to drag that up and then drag that down so that all the Neoposts are fine. And then I'm going to do the same with Novotel. And then I might do a few, and then I might want to go back to my pivot table on the left here, go to the data tab and refresh all. So if you watch the suppliers here, when I refresh all, you can see they've now been reduced to unique. And then actually then I can see, oh, I've just got Uber to fix. So I'm going to go back to my data here. And I'm going to change that. So that's what I would do for my normalization. What if I want to check the classification? So I'm going to click on my pivot again, and I'm going to add in my level 1, level 2, level 3, and level 4 here. Now, when you do this initially, it comes up like this. It's a terrible layout, awful. If I'm out of the pivot table, it doesn't show, but when I click on the pivot, you get pivot table, analyze, and design. So I'm going to go to the design tab. I'm going to take the subtotals away and the grand totals. And then on report layout, I'm going to show it in tabular form. Now it's starting to look better. And as you can see, I am looking for where there might be multiple classifications against a single supplier. Sometimes that is expected, like an office supplies company, you would expect that to be under multiple categories. But something like ABC Cars, you would expect one classification. Access self-storage, that's looking good. Bechtel, we've got facilities and IT, that is probably acceptable. And then I'm just looking down to see anything that might stick out that might not be right. We've got catering, cleaning, office supplies, so it's looking not too bad. And again, if you don't like this view, you can actually change this too. So you can repeat all item labels if you need to, so that you could do it like this, if that helps it for you visually. Now, this could be item codes that you want to do this with. You might want to check item codes and the descriptions, and you might find that there's maybe 2 descriptions to one item code, or there's one description that has multiple different item codes, and you might want unique descriptions for each item code. So there's a whole load of different ways you can do this. On the flip side of checking this, you can actually do it by category instead. So if I take the normalized supplier out, have the categories here and just keep level 1. So I just want to see the basic facilities, IT, professional services, travel. And then I put the normalized supplier back in, it will come in a different order. So then suddenly I can see what suppliers do I have sitting under facilities, and are any of them there that shouldn't be? So this all looks like it's as it's supposed to be. But say, for example, you had Dell under facilities, then you would know something wasn't right. You would then want to flip back to your other tab and do your raw data and then change it in there. So that really is a super mega quick whistle stop tour of how I might just quickly check data. Pivot tables can be so useful for doing this kind of stuff. You might just need to think about doing it in a different way. So have a play around with it. I'll give you my details at the end. I'm more than happy to talk through some stuff, and I will be planning to put more videos up on my YouTube over the coming month or so around this kind of stuff, so that you can see it again. But if we go back to this, if we just summarize everything that we've gone over, you've got to remember accurate data is critical to everything, whichever tool you're using, especially AI, machine learning, Newton, all that stuff. If you want to get the best out of it, you have to clean your data first. And there are no shortcuts. There's no magic. Don't believe the myths. You have to put the hard work in at the beginning, but it will save you so much time in the long run. Know your data. because if you know it, it's much easier to spot when things are wrong. So, and you can do that by doing regular maintenance and spot checks to make sure that everything looks okay. At the end of the day, it's going to make your life easier, and we all want that. You know, there are better things we could be doing than fixing dirty data. And I can't leave you without just reminding you that you have to make sure your data has its coat on. And if you need a little bit of a reminder, here we go.
Are you leaving your data out in the cold? You wouldn't go out into sub-zero temperatures without the correct protection, so why do so many companies forget to protect their data? Unprotected data can lead to bad business decisions that cost money and put jobs at risk. That's why your data needs its coat on. This means making sure your data is consistent, organized, accurate, and trustworthy. Consistent means using the same standards, terms, and classifications company-wide. Organized data makes it easier to find. Think of it like a messy closet. It can be difficult to find what you're after, even when you know it's in there. When organized correctly, it becomes easier to find what we want. Data should be accurate, which can mean different things to different people, but at its most basic level, accurate data is correct. And finally, data should be trustworthy. This is critical. If your team can't trust the data, they might not use it. And business decisions around jobs, staffing, and budgets are all based on data, so it's got to be right. Like any coat, there are differences in the quality of data services out there. If you buy a cheap coat, it might not be waterproof or protect you enough, and it won't last more than one season. If you don't invest in good quality data services, you will end up paying twice as much, if not more in the long run, to fix the earlier mistakes. If you'd like to speak to an expert about data in your own business, visit theclassificationguru.com to find out more.
And so that is the end of our session. This is my QR code. Please come find me, connect with me on LinkedIn. Happy to answer any questions you might have. If you want to know more, there is plenty in the book as well. I hope that that has given you some inspiration to go forth and spread the word of clean data and improving processes and making everyone's life easier. So have a quick scan of that. I'll leave that up for a minute and then I'll stop sharing my screen.
Well, Susan, thank you so much. Love the animations. Love all the information that you shared with us today. I mean, I think you totally hit the nail on the head. I mean, what we see so often is when we don't have the clean data and we're trying to use automated machine learning, it causes a lot of issues with when we try to do predictions with it, right?
Yeah. Don't blame the tool. Yeah.
Yep. If you don't have good input, like you said, you won't have good output. And so kind of while we chat here, everyone feel free to put any comments or questions in the chat, and we'll definitely address those. And then additionally to Susan, kind of what you were making me think about is, you know, data preparation, right? It's something that I hear so often from data analysts and data scientists. In fact, in one of our other AI talent labs, we had Fabio, a director of data and analytics over at Microsoft, and he actually spent 3 years collecting data across the organization in order to build a classification model to predict the satisfaction of a customer. And I think you're totally right. We need to put the processes in place. We need to, you know, work with the entire organization. We need to, you know, create those standards. So I think, you know, it was very useful. And with our Newton tool, we use, you know, Excel files. And so all those little tips and tricks you provided today, I think will be very helpful for all of the people who are trying to leverage it.
Yeah, I'm just looking at all the date formats now that are in the chat. It's everyone's got something different going on there. It's just shows you. But yeah, and actually that's one thing. Before you start on any project, think about what you want the end result to be. So before you clean the data, think about what you want the formats to be, how you want it to be laid out, what are the definitions, because trying to change stuff halfway through can be really, really tricky.
Absolutely. And you also kind of mentioned, like, you know, if you don't start right, you're going to end up spending more in the long run, right? You know, and I totally can see that, not only with just automated machine learning, when you also look at like robotic process automation, when you're trying to create those automations within the organization, if we don't have the data correctly formatted, it's not going to work. So just in the theme of automation, clean data is important. We did get a question. So can we do cleaning of the data with a programming language like Python? Is there any alternate to working with Excel, especially for a large amount of data?
So you can use those tools, but you have to be careful and not just blindly trust the script that you've put in. So you still need to do those visual checks to make sure everything looks all right. And a great example is when I'm normalizing, my team and I do it manually. And the reason that we do that is I have seen when people have tried to run Python scripts to remove things like ink at the end of company names, and it ends up removing ink from every single word or every supplier name. And so you have to just be careful. You have to know the data. It's once you know the data, you can then start building those automation processes in, but you really need to understand the data before you start doing that. Because I've seen it when it's been completely missed. Some people haven't realized that they've removed all these letters from words or names, and it's nearly gone out to the client or whoever. So yeah.
Yeah, and we have a comment. As a data engineer, we can algorithmically look at dates, but 8/2021, is this a month or a day? So I think absolutely you're right. There needs to be some human in the loop when it comes to these types of things, right? Especially when you're going to start that process of maybe creating some way of automating this. You need to make sure that you're set up properly, right? Even with what we'll see here with Newton, kind of some of the automation that we've done, it's still important that you have you know, good data that you put in before you go into the automated state.
Yeah, and you need to know the data so that when the automation doesn't work properly, you know how to fix the data to make the automation work properly. You know, it's like, you know, the tools are great, but they don't magically work. You have to help them.
Absolutely. And I think, you know, one of the other things that you had kind of mentioned is when we're trying to teach something to the machine, right, we need to give it the right information. Otherwise, it'll learn improperly and you won't get good results. And that's what we've seen as well. A lot of people will kind of haphazardly upload their data sets into the Newton platform, just click run, and then they come out with a poor quality model. And so, you know, our support team will go back to them and help them, you know, understand the data a little bit better and reformat it so it'll work better.
And imagine how much time has been spent from your client side and your team side just trying to fix that could have been saved had they done that in the beginning. And also, unfortunately for you, they don't realize that it's their fault. So they think it's the tool, and it's actually not the tool at all. It's them and their data.
Yep, and that's definitely a headwinds we've seen as well. You know, hey, I used Newton, I created a model, it wasn't very good. Wow, this tool sucks.
It's easy to blame someone else, yeah.
But when we go back, we clean up the data, we can actually get a really good model.
Yeah,
so
you've got an amazing tool, and yeah, you just need that great data behind it to power it.
Cool. So I think that is a nice leeway. I just have a slide for all of you to kind of showcase what we do with our automated data pre-processing. So after everything that Susan has shared us, once you've got the data prepared, let's take a look at how Newton can help you as well. Once again, thank you, Susan, so much. Everyone, please add her on social media and all of that good stuff. And so when we look at a data set, as Susan had showcased, there's a lot of different things that are going on. So in this particular case, we've got, you know, our client IDs and some various different information. And so what are some of the things that a Newton can help with? So in this case, columns with 100% unique values will be dropped. So, you know, an ID like columns, for example, columns with a constant value will be deleted. So in this case, all of these values are 1. So this isn't going to help us when we create a machine learning model. Additionally, an identical column will be dropped after scaling. So you can see that the value in column 3 is doubled value of column 2. So here you can see that the column is doubled. So this won't provide value. And then also Newton will help handle missing values. So we'll create machine learning models to fill in these missing values. Then also in different cases where Susan had highlighted, hey, you know, in a particular column, we might have this error, right? We have somebody accidentally keyed in some letters as opposed to the numeric values. So we'll go ahead and detect those, remove them, and then predict on a new value. And then also another issue with missing values, if there are too many missing values within a particular column, if there's more than 50%, we'll just automatically drop those. And then finally, we will have rows with these different outliers or you know, numbers that aren't fitting within the data set. So here we have these huge numbers where, you know, in the target we have maybe 5,000, but here we have a very large number. Same thing here in column 7. We have, you know, 2, 4, 6, 8, but then all of a sudden we have 10,000. So this won't be very useful for us. So we'll go ahead and jump into a live demo example. Here's a QR code to try the Newton platform for free. We have lots of different preloaded data sets in there for you to try out across different industry verticals. Today, we're going to be looking at a famous data set for predicting house prices in Boston. And so let's go ahead and jump into the platform. So this is the Newton platform. It's completely cloud-based, so you can leverage it via the web. And all of my solutions that I've created here are tile-based, and everything's on Google Cloud Platform. So all of the infrastructure is handled automatically. And all we need to do to get started is we go create new solution. In this case, I'm going to do house price prediction. So we're going to look at all of the different features within the Boston market about houses, whether they're multiple stories, how many rooms, how many square footage, and then the historical price for those houses. And then that way, as a realtor, for example, when I'm looking at new information on houses, I can take this model and then predict on what the new house price should be. And then there's some data and analytics involved as well. So once I've done that, I can either upload my data set, I can select from storage, or use a preloaded data set, which I'll do for the sake of demonstration. So here, if you, when you log in, you'll be able to get access to all of these preloaded data sets to try out the platform for free. In this case, we're going to do a house price prediction. And before I continue, I just wanted to show you kind of what the data set looks like. So here we have information about zoning, what the lot frontage is, the lot area. As you can see, we even have text data, right? So all of this is going to have to be taken care of before we create a machine learning model. So as you can see, there's lots of information about the houses. And then finally, we have the historical house price of the actual value of those houses at the time. In this particular data set, we have about 1,400 different houses that we're going to learn on. So now we just hit OK. So within Newton, there's 3 easy steps for you to be able to create these powerful and predictive models, and we'll be able to look at this as well. I see some chats coming in here. I'll definitely address those at the end. So yeah, there's 3 easy steps: data set, then we train, and then ultimately we want to predict what the new house prices are. So the last step in the data set tab is we select the what we're trying to predict and train on. So in this case, we're going to want to predict what the house price is. Now the next step is training. The platform has understood that it's regression, and the metric is root mean squared log. So in this case, if we weren't using a preloaded data set, we would be able to select different task types, but for all intensive purposes, you don't need to, and then you just click training. Now what this is going to do is it's going to begin to learn on all of those. Well, first it's going to do our automated pre-processing, which I just showcased in the PowerPoint. And then also, if you want, you can get a text notification of when the training is complete. Once it does the pre-processing and feature engineering, if you want, it'll then train a predictive model. After that, you can go ahead and start predictions. In this case, it may take a little bit of time to train the model. So what we're going to do is I've already pre-trained on this data set. So let's just take a look here. So this took about 8 minutes to train the model, and we looked at the data that was before pre-processing. Let's take a look at what it looks like now. So after the automated pre-processing, as you can see, it's actually changed all of the text into numerical values. It's filled in the missing values, etc. So that's kind of what the data will look like after the automated pre-processing. We've also baked in some analytics tools in order to help you understand the data, maybe before you do the prediction. So in this particular case, what we have here is our exploratory data analysis. We'll give you a nice snapshot of your overall data. So in this particular case, the maximum house price was $755,000, the minimum was $34,000, and the mean was about $180,000. We can see we had 1,400 rows, 81 columns, etc. In this particular case, we had about 7,000 missing values that we've been able to handle, or about 6% of our total data. In addition, we also provide what we call continuous data. So on this particular case, we're looking at the general living area distribution in relation to the target variable. So what does this mean? So within houses, right, we have a general living area. And so in this case, most of the houses fell under about 1,200 square feet for the general living area. And on the right here, on the bottom, we have our general living area, as well as the house price in the vertical. So you can actually see somewhat of a linear, actually pretty well linear relationship of the larger the general living area, the higher the house price. And you can do this with all of the different features as well. Some cases it might be informative, in some cases it might not be. We also provide information on the discrete data. So this is kind of a nice snapshot of the categorical data, if you will. So in this case, it was, did the house have central air conditioning or did it not? So 1 or a 0, or a yes or a no. In this case, a large amount of the houses did have central air, and a few didn't. And then on the right, if we look at it in relation to the target variable, we can see that quite a lot of the houses that did not have central air sold for under 180,000. And then houses with general or central air, excuse me, they sold from all the prices up to 175,000. Here, this is a violin plot. So here we can see the general distribution of the sales prices. And then all of these outliers, say some of the houses that sold for 750,000, we actually remove those automatically in the data pre-processing. We also provide a correlation heat map. This will showcase all of the features that are correlated with the target variable, as well as different features. So in this case, the overall quality of the house was highly correlated with the sales price. If we look here, we can see the first floor square footage is highly correlated with this particular feature as well. And so in this case, certain features that are highly correlated, we might want to remove. One of the other kind of cool visualizations that we have as well for your data analysis is the missing value heat map. So this is actually a snapshot of the entire Excel sheet. Anywhere there's white, there's missing values. And so here it's a little bit easier to see. So for the feature alley, you can actually see a lot of missing values, which are white. And then for some of these ones that are darker, are a lot more filled in. So we might want to say, hey, you know, we don't have much data on the alley, so maybe there's other areas we can go and collect data to fill this in to create a stronger model. And then we also show some different outliers and then the overall model quality. And in this case, we use RMSLE. And if the arrow's down, then you want a lower one. So this is pretty low, so that's good. So that's our exploratory data analysis. But of course, what we all wanted to do here is make predictions, right? Because we have all of our historical data, we had the target variable, but now we want to predict on that. So you can just click this button to enable prediction. I've already done it just to, because it takes a couple of minutes for demo purposes. You can download the solution and deploy it on a machine or on an edge device. You can also access it via REST API. So if you want to make predictions every month, you can set up and call to the cloud, and we provide the sample code that you would need to do that. So you really, you don't need to know coding. And as you can see, all I've done is a couple of clicks and I've been able to create a predictive model. No code necessary. So once you want to do predictions, you click start. And then right now, I'm going to select my test data set. So there's two data sets, the one with all of the historical data, including the sales price. And then there's all of the new data that does not include the sales price because we don't know. So now we're going to upload that and predict on it. So normally you would just click start, but I've already created predictions. And so let's see what the Newton platform has produced. So in this case, everything to the right is all of the data that we've uploaded, the new data that we want to predict on. And then everything left of this area is the new predictions that Newton has created. So in this particular case, for the first house, we've predicted this 130,000. Now, once you've done a prediction, you may want to understand, why did my model make that prediction and what are the things that I can do to help with that? So in this case, maybe we want to look at house number 4, for example. It predicted at 179,000. We can use what we've created, which is our model interpreter. This will allow you to understand the prediction from compliance purposes, or even from business outcomes. What can we do? So here we have all of the top features that are influencing the predicted value. So in this case, we predicted the house to be 179,000. Now, one of the features we have is the overall quality of the house. In this case, this house was rated as an overall quality of 6. Now, if we were to adjust the overall quality of the house to an 8, now we would predict the house would sell for 219,000. So if you think about it, as a realtor, what are the different things I can do in order to improve the overall quality of the house to ultimately get a higher sales price? And is the investment of raising the house quality from a 6 to an 8, am I able to invest, say, $10,000, right? So instead of 180,000, it would be 190,000, but I can actually sell it for 219,000. So that's just kind of a little bit of an example of how you might be able to, look at the data, make adjustments, and then make business, actions from that. A couple of last things I wanted to share with you before we go into Q&A is the feature importance matrix. And what this is it will show you all of the top features that are influencing your prediction for house price. So in this case, we can see general living area, overall quality, first floor square footage. A lot of these had a high impact. We can also look at the bottom 10 different features that aren't influencing the prediction. So in this particular case, if we're paying for this data, we may want to not pay our supplier for this data anymore and just focus on the top features that are influencing the model. The last thing I wanted to share with you is what we call our historical model to data relevance indicator. And so this kind of goes back to what Susan was saying, that, if you start with good data, that can save you a lot of money in the long run. But then also a big theme from Susan's discussion was the maintenance of your data. And so say this week I created a model, and then a month later, I want to predict on some new houses. So I've done my prediction. Right now it's at a 99%, that's looking good. Now, 2 or 3 months later, as my data changes or as the market changes, the data might no longer be relevant to the model. So this may go down to a 70%. So this would be, okay, now we need to potentially go back and retrain the model or go back and maintain that data. So I just wanted to share that kind of theme that ties back to what Susan was sharing with us. Cool. So let's take a quick look at the chat log as well as the Q&A. So yeah, Yulia, thank you for sharing the link to how to get started for free. Let's look at the Q&A tab. All right, the Q&A was already the question that we had answered earlier. So yeah, super excited to have you today, Susan. It was a wonderful presentation. Also appreciate everyone who took the time out of their day to join us on this particular AI Talent Lab. So yeah, thank you everyone as well. And then one last thing that I can share with you is access to our Slack channel. So feel free to leverage this QR code and you'll be able to directly chat with other individuals within the AI community, as well as you can ask questions if you have any information you want to share with the team. You can network with the data science community, and then we're constantly sharing new information, cool fun facts about artificial intelligence, machine learning, data, all things data. So yeah, feel free, join the Slack channel. We'd love to see you there as well.
And also we will share there the winner of our book giveaway of today. So I just would like to remind you that the luckiest one will be awarded by our sponsor Pact, and will receive amazing book of data cleaning cookbook on Python. So please be with us. Check our LinkedIn and Slack. After a few days, we will upload the results of this book giveaway, and we'll contact you personally. Yeah. Yes, we have not question, but can you repost the QR code again, please, Andrew?
Sure.
Share the QR code. Yeah, for the Slack channel. I also will share with you guys now the link to join our Slack right now. Give me 1 second. Maybe it will be easier for you.
Yep, and this session will be available on YouTube afterwards as well. So you'll be able to take a look.
Yeah, actually, we always do the records of this session. So if you didn't have a time to make your notes from amazing advices from Susan, you can go to our YouTube channel and check it again. And also we will upload this video in Slack channel. Here I share the link to join us. You are very welcome. And I think Susan will join us also, right, Susan? So if you had the questions but didn't have a chance to ask them, you can do it directly in personal, yeah, in the Slack channel afterwards. Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Awesome session. Thank you. Thank you to be with us. We're really happy that you like it. Would you share your YouTube channel? Yes, of course. Give me one moment. Maybe Ilya, could you help us with this? Yeah, here we have our YouTube channel. Please join. So we will prepare more interesting webinars and practical sessions for you. So we are really happy to help you to grow and to be promoted in your career and also to grow in your business. Thank you, Linda. Thank you to be with us. Sasha, thank you.
I was going to say, if you wanted to share your YouTube in the chat as well,
good idea.
I think that might be helpful.
Let me just get that now.
Susan, do you have a special Christmas movie for us in your channel?
So every day on LinkedIn, I'm posting an advent. So if you, but they're all also on the YouTube channel, so you'll find them there as well.
Cool.
There you go.
Thank you, guys. Let's give a minute to copy the link for everyone and also for people who are watching us in LinkedIn. Okay, thank you. And see you soon. See you on channel. See you on the platform. See you on the website of Susan. I hope it was very useful session for you. And all the best for everyone and amazing week.
Thanks very much.
Take care.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye-bye to everybody.